Okay, live streaming, full test number 1, checking for video and sound quality. I'm just going to run through a quick lesson on how to apply some inks, and I need to review it to see how it was going, because I have no idea. Alright. I'm using Adirondack Lights. This is the question I'm having a lot of times, and this is kind of the key to this whole type of system of using these colors like this in the kind of a raised, or a glazed, I should say, dye-based ink technique. When using dye-based inks, you want to start off with kind of a thicker ink like this, and all of the inks from Ranger, as far as I know, as far as the dye-based inks go, they're all kind of thicker in consistency, as well as the Memento inks, okay? And those inks can really spread onto a glossy cardstock really nicely. All right? Now there's a difference between glossy cardstock and glossy photo paper. Glossy cardstock has a clay-based coating on them, and photo paper is more of an emulsion-based one. One dries very quickly, it's like the home inkjet printer, and the other one's more of a professional printing paper that they use in the printing industry, so any kind of postcards or cover stocks are made on that. If you're watching this video, welcome. I'm just doing a real kind of basic test here. I want to play it back and hear it for myself. If you want to say something in the live chat, you can go ahead and type that in. I think I can read it from here. I'm not quite sure. I've never done this before, so chime in if you have any questions, if you're seeing this. I'm getting this, I believe, it's like on a, I don't know, it's like a 15-second delay from my original test, so if I don't respond right away, you'll know why. Okay, but anyways, going back to what I was saying when I first started this test out was I'm just doing your basic dye-based ink to glossy paper technique right here. And this is the question that I get all the time when doing this. It's, you know, these little sponge applicators or whatever applicator you're using. A lot of people find that it grips, okay? And it's not slippery. It doesn't look like it's going on like it does when I'm using it, okay? Now, just about every brand of inks out there, the inks are fairly thick, except for the Marvy inks, okay? So they have a different consistency. So I start off with the thicker ones, okay? And you can even use this in a very thick form. You can block, squeeze some of that ink out like that on the surface, and it spreads around beautifully. Now, if you're using glossy cardstock, it should spread really beautifully and nicely. If you're using a glossy photo stock made from like an inkjet printer, what you'll find is that if you do something like that, it absorbs into the paper right away because it's meant to dry fast. You don't want to have a home inkjet printer and, you know, have your prints coming out just sopping wet where you can just kind of streak across it. So that's what glossy cardstock's about. Most glossy cardstocks work very well, and some of them, but they all have different characteristics when I'm finding. But they can all work for the most part. And if you buy kind of a rebranded glossy cardstock, it's really hard for me to say anything specific about them because I'm not quite sure what brand someone has repurposed or repackaged. So it's always best to just kind of experiment. But just in general, they work pretty good. It's how they dry, though, sometimes, as far as the ink and paper combinations. Some of them just dry kind of a little bit more dull, but if you spray your scenes, it's kind of the great equalizer. It should bring back the vibrancy, or if they dull out and you spray them, and it doesn't kind of bring back the depth and vibrancy of a kind of a freshly inked card. You try spraying it before it dries the next time. Okay. All right, that was some of the Adirondack Lights, which unfortunately are no longer available, which I have a feeling that this is going to be happening all the time, you know, in this industry, because new lines of inks come out all the time from different manufacturers. Different lines go out, some companies change and whatnot. So, you know, instead of going by brand or line, I would just recommend going by kind of tone of ink. I like having a range of different types of inks. All right, this is the Salvia Blue from Marvy. And I'm just going for just a generic swatch here. Things like this provide a nice background for imagery over the, you know, over the top of it. It can look like kind of an amorphic sky background or whatever. You can do kind of an aurora borealis if you take it dark enough. But in terms of this technique of layering color onto your scene, it's a perfect kind of format for exercising this type of technique right here. Okay, this is a number 10 blue. Marvy inks are a little bit thinner than other brands of inks, just in general. Okay, I haven't really found as thin of an ink as this. It's very rich, but it's very thin. So one of the things that's good about using the thinner one over the thicker is that the thinner ink can penetrate the thicker ink on the surface there, or that's been used as a foundation. So you don't have this ink kind of sitting on the surface, and then when you go on to apply another ink, if you're going kind of thick on thick, it can really start to build up on the page and almost start to repel the inks that you're trying to apply. That's why it's good to go thin on thick, because the thinner one will soak into the paper through that thicker ink. Okay, so we can kind of see what's kind of coming out here right now. I just did a scene recently called Winter's Wind that's kind of in this same type of flowing spirit. I like these kind of curves like this. Alright. It's kind of like a bird, like an abstract bird or something like that. Okay. Now see, when you apply the thick inks as a foundation, you can take your thicker inks and you can really blot it down like that, and that really spreads out beautifully without making kind of these obtrusive marks. Okay, let's see here. I need to move quickly on this one because I have a feeling my camera battery is going to run out, which is fine if I'm doing a, you know, a taped lesson or something like that, but going live, it's like I'm going to be cut off. So if I get cut off, you know what happened, you know, on this test video. I'll start off with a fresh battery in the future. All right, this is going on with a number 3 blue. If you're familiar with the Marvy line of inks, it's just your navy blue, just a real basic dark blue. Okay. See, I can apply it like that and spread it around if I want to, because I have that nice foundation of the lighter tones underneath. So lighter colors that you use as a foundation, if you're working from light to dark, which I recommend, it gives you a lot of leadway, you know, as far as the application with the darker inks built on top of it. In other words, you don't want to have these marks like that, you know, that are set and dried on your scene like this, unless you're going for, you know, some kind of textural statement like that. Usually people aren't. So you can do that type of thing if you've built up your thicker inks underneath, because if those thinner inks as a foundation act kind of like as a lubricant. Okay. So building it up like this. Okay. Probably use some sort of accent color in there if this is supposed to be a sky. Now maybe I will start going for a little bit of texture. I kind of like a little bit of variation in my sky, where things aren't quite so smooth. Okay. And I like that as a dark blue, but let's go into it and add something different. Okay, let's go back in with a lighter blue. I think I can use I don't know, maybe a light, bright blue in here or something like that. There's just too much white, I thought. Okay. So you can go back over it. If you add a light on dark, it's not going to make that area seem lighter because these inks are transparent. But it can make it richer, though. Okay. Right. That's that. And let's try a Prussian blue. Prussian blue is a really beautiful dark blue. It's almost black if you use it just in its pure form. I happen to have some of the lighter blues in this applicator right here, though, which is a Color Box Stylus tool. It's basically just a sponge on a wand. It's a nice tool because this is a nice ergonomic shape here, and it fits in your hand just like you're using a pen. Some people used to use things like Nerf balls, you know, like sponge balls or something like that, which are far less dense than this. So this, you know, it worked out okay, but these are far better, you know, as a ink as an instrument rather than kind of I don't know, whatever, redefining a different tool, kind of not, you know, for the purpose of that. But that was in the days when there were basically no accessories around in rubber stamping at all. I'm talking. There weren't even raised die bases. There weren't even ink pads, you know. Okay. This is black. And I'm adding this around the edges like so. You're probably wondering what this is going to be, as am I. But I just needed to do something quickly as a test for this live streaming. If this comes out, I'd be amazed. I have no idea if the audio is being recorded by my computer or if it's being recorded by my camera. That looks okay, but there's still that big, huge area in there. I think I'm going to change that a little bit. It looks a little bit kind of needing of something. It's lacking something, isn't it? Let's go for some warmth in there. I'm just going to go for this yellow-green, maybe. Remember, the yellow-green over the blue isn't going to make that blue yellow-green. It might make it a little bit of a turquoise or something like that. But this is a way just to add in a little bit of warmth and temperature. see this kind of glowing light now a little bit. Let's try a darker kind of lime green. I kind of work around in families of colors, and then I'll kind of dip into the analogous colors. Like from a blue, I'll try a green, or from a blue, I'll go into a violet or something like that. And sometimes, potentially, the more you kind of use analogous colors like that, colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel, you can get this kind of color glow type of effect happening. Something like that. It looks a little bit weird. I think I need to go to black around there too, or something like that. It's more like a aurora borealis or something of that sort. Northern Lights. Which I've never seen live, which I want to one of these days. Okay, let's see. Let's play around with a little bit more darker blue. I'm just getting kind of an ugly green out there, so I want to darken that in a little bit. And I'm going back to the Prussian blue here. If these start coming out well, I'm going to have these kind of stamp-along live videos where people can kind of stamp along with the videos, and they can ask questions as they go. But we'll see how this works out here. And hopefully it does, because it'll add another kind of dimension to the channel, I guess. All right, let's go to black. I'll use it on the edges. Now this card in some of these areas became fairly dark, so I can use a pretty decent amount of this black. In most of my scenes I don't get that dark like that, so it's usually more of a kind of on the perimeter. But let's see if we can kind of work this in a little bit. And that'll really frame off this kind of flame-like shape that's building in here. Okay. Alright, let's see what we can do with this as a scene now, or if we can. I thought I would try something with this Lakeside Cove stamp, maybe. I have to figure out which side is up and which side's down. With something like this, it's not always apparent, It's kind of like an abstract sky that we're looking at right here. And this is the Lakeside Cove large stamp. And for the most part, it's a silhouette, so against these bold, colors and shapes out here in the background, it can hold up against, kind of a pre-existing background like that with a lot of contrast and, clearly defined kind of a lighting scheme. Okay, I'm kind of pressing this down a little bit longer than I would normally do. Well, first of all, because it's a large image, okay? But second of all, the paper is fairly damp. I mean, it's not sopping wet to the touch, but there's a lot of ink that's been laid down, so you're kind of stamping wet into wet, okay? I'll get the edges right here by overlapping like so. Right. This is a 5.5 by 8.5 inch paper. Right. So we have our kind of our water line down there. And what I can do to that is I can add in some additional shadows, but that image, you know, stamped in this black ink. And this pad is kind of a medium dampness, so I transferred a lot of that black ink over, and that will need to dry before I go into those shadow areas with some additional tone, because I don't want to smear everything that's in there. And I guess I need to think about this type of thing on this live broadcast type of thing, where I'm doing the other videos that are posted on the channel. I can just, you know, stop and pause the video and just come back to it when it's dry, and I can just start finishing. I can hit record again, but on the live broadcast, I better have really everything planned out where I, you know, have to pause. But if this is kind of an aurora borealis type of thing, you can have some stars up here. This is using the a white gel pen, and I'm just about to run out of battery in my camera, so I'll show you what I would generally do here. This needs to get filled in a little bit with some additional color too, I think. And I would put some stars like that up in the sky. And this will look a lot better with some additional shadows in there. There's no opacity to that because, like, those rocks are completely light. So, given things like little star effects down in the water, like a reflection, would be good. But anyways, test video number 1 as far as a live stream goes. I see there's like 2 or 3 people watching. If you're the same people that kind of tuned in from the beginning, I hope you can hear me okay. And I don't know, thanks for bearing with me on this test run. And I don't know, if there's anything that I need to know, let me know, because I have no idea how this is turning out as far as all the details as far as video and audio quality goes. So yeah, there's a lot of things I need to work out as far as the kinks in terms of the presentation and kind of planning out of these types of scenes. So anyways, that's it for now. And let's see, full video test number 1 is now complete. And I don't know, knowing me, I'll want to finish off this card somehow. I might have to do that in a separate, maybe non-live video, but filling in here with some additional color. I don't know, maybe even turning the color a little bit, like putting in some like violets or pinks down here. And that would complement that green really nicely. And pink, of course, relates to blue, you know, and that it'll doesn't relate to it, but it'll form like a violet in here. So there's plenty of white space in there, so I don't know, might be interesting. So anyways, if you've been watching, thanks so much, and yeah, once again, let me know if there's anything that we need to do as far as the kind of the presentation quality, and I'll try to figure it out in the settings here in the future.